friends, welcome back to another exciting series of shell scripting or Linux fundamentals on my YouTube channel. Hope you all are doing great and taking care of yourself. In today's video, we are going to talk about one of the important concepts called as file permission in Unix. As you know by now, everything in Unix is treated as a file. So whenever you create a file, you need to be cautious what permission you should grant to that file so that it can be readable, it can be writable, at the same time it can be an executable. But we need to be also cautious that we should not give a modify or write access to an unknown user which does not belongs to that group. And that's what we are going to see in this video. At the same time, we will be going through the demo session of whatever we are going through in this presentation. So without any delay, let's get started. So the first thing in our today's session we are going to talk about is the file permission. And within file permission, we have something called as a read permissions, write permissions, and execute permissions. At the same time, we will be exploring an important command in Unix called as umarks command. We will be also studying what is sticky bit in Linux. We will be also going through what is meaning of chmod 77 in Linux, or I would say, how can we give an access to the file and what permission should we give to that file when created. What is 755 permission? What is 644 permission? What is 700 permission? What is 600 permission? And what is at 711 permission. At the same time, at last, we will be talking about chmod command, which is change ownership file. So whenever you create a file, now you want to change an owner of that file. So that's what we are going to talk about by using chmod command. So let's get to our first slide, which is file permission. So the file permission provides a way of controlling whether other people can read or even modify your files. So whenever you create a file in Unix, it will have an owner, which is also called as a user, and user will belong to a certain user group. And that's what we are going to go through in this slide. So user, which is noted as U, is the owner of the file. By default, the person who created a file becomes its owner. Hence, user is sometimes called as an owner or the vice versa. Second thing is the group, which is noted as G. A user group can contain multiple users. Right, a group can have multiple users in it. All users belong to a group will have the same Linux group permission access to the file. The third one is other, which is noted as O. Any other user who has access to the file. This person has neither created the file nor he belongs to a user group who owns the file. Practically, it means everybody else. On the right hand side, you see an image where I have mentioned what is user, what is group, and what is others. So the first alphabet in user is R, which means he has a read permission. W, which is an write permission, and X here is noted as an execute permission. The next, which is nothing but a group members, so member belonging to that group will have read and execute permission, which is R and X. The others would have just a read and execute permission, which is R-X, which is in the green color. Now, let's learn what are the octal values of these file permissions. So the octal value of execute, which is noted as an X, has the value 1. The octal value for the write is 2, which is noted as W. Execute and the write combination, which is WX, is octal value having 3, which is 2 plus 1 or 1 plus 2. The read octal value, which is noted as R, has the value 4. And read and execute combination, which is RX, is having an octal value 5. Read and write combination has an octal value 6. And the combination of all three, read, write, execute, which is RWX, has an octal value of 7. You need to only concentrate on the octal value. But if you want to know the binary value of what all these are, I have shared on my right side with an image which has the binary value for all the octals which we have discussed. Moving to the next slide, we will be talking about umarks command. So what is the full form of umarks command, which is a user marks or a user file creation marks. So umarks is the default permission of the file and directory. So umarks will have some default value, which is 002, or it can be 022, depending upon what kind of default value has been set using the umarks command on your Linux machine or a Linux version. So default permission for the file is 66, which is RW. So user is having RW, which is read write. On the group is having a permission which is RW, which is 6, and the other person is having RW, which is 6. Because the file require read and write permission, only binary or the script require the execution permission. So remember, whenever you are writing certain script, you should have an execute permission. The file is nothing but you just need to write, read or write. So that's why we are giving a default permission for the file has 6. But when you want to execute the script, you need to have the execute permission. So it would be a 7, which is read, write, execute, because you, at the same time, the script should be readable by the interpreter. At the same time, tomorrow, if you want to modify something in the script, you should have the write access. And at the same time, we are executing the script, right? Because we in script is nothing but it is a set of commands or a business logic which you have written to execute certain process. The default directory permission is 777, so that the user can create the file or a script in that directory. So what is the syntax, or how can you know the default value of umarks? So the syntax is just umarks. If you want to know what is the value of my user group or other, then you can type something called as umarks minus s, which gives you a summary of that. On the right side, you see something called as O022, which is our default marks value. So 0 means nothing removed from the owner. 2 means write permission is removed from the group. And 2, again, the write permission is removed from the others. Remember, the 2 has a 2 is nothing but an octal value of the write. So when you're talking about when we talk about 022, that means from the owner perspective, we haven't removed anything. None of the permissions have been removed. But 2 means we from the group perspective, we have removed the write permission. From the others also we have removed the write permission, because we do not want any of the user to modify our file. Right? Moving to our next important concept, which is nothing but an sticky bit. So what is sticky bit? So sticky bit is a special permission of the directory. In this permission, only the owner of the file or a root user can delete, rename the file. No other user have permission to delete or rename it. So there would be a scenario where you want just user to, or any other user which does not belongs to a particular group in which you are, you just want that user to read the directory, but you do not want the user to delete or rename that directory. So that's where the sticky bit comes into a picture. Don't worry, we will be going through a demo session of it soon. So sticky bit can be created in two ways. One is in the symbolic way. T represents the sticky bit. Another is the numerical, or we call it as an octal way. So value of sticky bit is nothing but 1. And how can you create that? chmod plus T and the directory name. If you want to remove the sticky bit of a directory, minus T. Suppose there is a case where you want to find which all directories in my system is having the sticky permission. So it is 1000. On the right side, you have seen I have explained a simple demo of an stick bit. So we have a user 1, we have a user 2. So user 2 has created a directory called as a shared directory. And he wants to restrict the user 1 not to remove any file from that directory or delete that directory. So that's where he has created an sticky bit. Coming to an important command, which is chmod. We talked about what permissions we should give to the file, and how can we restrict the file not to be accessible for modification for the others. But how can now you give the access to the file or permissions to the file? So for that, it is chmod. So chmod stands for change mode. Using this command, we can set the permissions, which is read, write, execute, not only on the file, but also on the directory for the owner, group, and the world. And what is the syntax for that? It is chmod, permission, and the file name. As I told you, need to remember the octal value. That's what we are going to use while we are giving the permission to the file. Also, there is another way to give the permission to the file, which I will show you in a demo session if you don't remember the octal values. The another syntax to give the recursive permission to all the directories, which is chmod minus R, which is recursive permissions, and the file name, or sorry, I would say the directory name, typo error. The permission is a 3-digit octal value where the 3 digits correspond to the access right of the user who owns the file, the group, and the other users. Don't worry, we will be going through a demo session of these soon. Coming to another topic which we discuss in our slide is what is meaning of chmod 77 in Linux. So 77 means it's the full permission on the file, means read, write, and execute permission for all the users, but it may pose a huge risk, and that's what we do not want. So never ever use chmod 77. This means you are giving the permission to whole world or exposing your file to an unknown domain or the world to see. And it is nothing but has root access as well. Coming back to our another topic which we're discussing, what is 755 means, 644, 700, 600, and 711. So in Linux, 755 means you can do anything with the file or directory and other users can read and execute it, but not alter it. What it is suitable for? Suitable for the programs and directories you want to make it publicly available. Defaultly in all the organizations, you would see 755 defaultly given to a file or a directory. In Linux, 644 means you can read, write the file or the directory and others users can only read it. What it is suitable for the public text files. In Linux, 700 means you can do anything with the file or a directory and other users have no access to it at all, suitable for the private directories or the programs. In Linux, 600 means you can read and write the file or a directory and other users have no access to it, suitable for the private text files. So this is where you have a configuration file where you have saved the username or encrypted password and you do not want that anyone to read it or access it. So that's where we give 600 permission. At in 711 means you can do anything with the file or directory and other users can only execute it. Suitable for the directories where you do not want other people browsing the contents, but do you want to give them access to the selected files. I hope you got a little bit understanding of what all these octal values should are and what necessary permissions we should give to our files or directories. Don't worry, we will be going through a demo session soon after this presentation. Moving to the next one and important one, which is our last, is the chon command, which is called as a change owner or a group. So chon is used to change the owner or the group. Whenever you want to change the ownership, you can use chon command. And what is the syntax for that? Chon, the owner name, sorry for the typo, and the file name. Chon minus R, the user and the group and the directory. So tomorrow you want to give a recursive access to a directory, subdirectories and a directory, you use chon minus R, which is similar to our chmod minus R. On the right side, you see a small table which says user. This points to the username or the UID of a new regular user that owns the file or a directory. Group is nothing but a new group and it is a GID that will be associated with the file or a directory. And file is the name of the file or the directories or the link that will take up the new ownership. Now, you might be having a doubt why we need chon and chmod. What is exactly difference between these two? And to answer that question, here is our next slide, and which is this. So chon is basically providing you the ownership to a file or a directory. It is nothing but giving you a key to open the door. And chmod is nothing but changes the mode of a file for all the users that belongs in the provided user type or a group. So whatever contents you have in that room, That's what now you want to access that. For that, you use chmod 77. I hope this presentation gave you an idea about what we are talking about. So without any delay, now let's move to our practical session. So friends, to demonstrate today's session, I am using AWS Cloud Shell. So our terminal is already up and prepared. So let's first type a command called as an ID, and you see I have a UID of 1000. The username is a Cloud Shell user. The group ID is 997 and the group name is again a Cloud Shell user. So in Linux, whenever you created first time a user or you want to add a user, it is added in a file called as cat etc psswd. This is nothing but a password file. So whenever a root user or a sudo user adds a user called as with a command sudo user add and the username, whatever it is, it gets added into this file. Now we have created a user. It should belong to a certain group. And where can we see that? There is another file called as etc group. And this gives you the list of groups which are available on this terminal, or your specific user belongs to this group. As we see, we have a group called as Cloud Shell under Cloud Shell dash user 997 is the group ID. And we have a user called as Cloud Shell with a UID user ID 1000 and the group ID is 997 and the default shell is bin/bash. Now let's move to our first command which we have studied in our presentation, which is umarks. So let's see what is the default umarks on this terminal. So the default umarks on this terminal is 002. Now let's see the summary of that. So the user has read, write, execute. The group also has read, write, execute, and the other people or the other owners or users who are not part of that group has read and execute. They do not have the right permission. So let me see if I have any directory here. Let me remove everything. Okay, so now nothing is there. Let me clear the screen. What is our directory? Okay, so remember when let's see when we create the directory what permission it has and what permission of the file has. So to create a directory, we have a command called as a mkdir, and let's put a name called as a demo test. And now let's see what is a default permission for that. As we see, the default permission for the user is RWX, which is highlighted. The group is having the RWX and the other is having just RX. So that's what is our default permission for the directory, which is 776. Now let's create a file in this directory and see what is the default permission of that file, right? Remember, we have umarks 002. That means 0, nothing change in the permission for the user, 0, nothing change for the group, and only the 2, which is we have removed the right access from the file for the other user. That's why it is RX. Now let's see what the file will have the permission. To create a file, we'll use a touch. Let's first go into our directory, and now let's create a file called as file.txt. And moment I create that file.txt, I see I have only the user is having only the read write, which is nothing but 6. Group is having read write, which is nothing but 6. But the other user, oh sorry, but the other user is just having a read access, which is 664, right? So now let's see if we can modify this file or something. Let's see. Now let me add vi file.txt. The moment and this is first demo on file for me. And let me type wq and see that I have the right access to the file. You got why I have the right access to the file? Because if you see here, the user is having read and W access, which is read and write. That's why I was able to write in the file. Now let's create a script and see whether I would have an access to execute that script. So what we'll do is we'll just create a script called demo.sh, and in this I'm just writing echo this is demo file. Okay, and let me save. Because I have the right access, I can definitely do. And let me see if I can read the file. Yes, I can read the file because I have the read access. Now let's try to execute it. How can we execute? Sh and demo.sh. The moment it does, it does. So moment I try to execute the script, it says permission denied because I don't have the execute permission. And that's what is for the file, right? RW. So how can now I give the access to the script? Execute access. So remember our next command is chmod 7. That is I'm giving the whole permission. Okay, and then I'll just keep the default permission, which is 6.4 and demo.sh. The moment I type this, you see now the user has RWX access. And now let's see whether I can execute that script or not. Let's see. Yes, I can now execute that script. I don't see any error saying that permission denied. And this is what our output is there in the demo.sh. Now let's try to change the umarks value. How can you change that? Let me clear the screen. The default umarks is 002. Now let me make it umarks 0022. And now when I do umarks minus s, I see that I have revoked the right access from the group. Remember previously we were having the right access to the group, but now I have revoked the right access. So that's how you can set a default umarks of your own to limit the file creation and the directory creation. Let's revert back to our 002. And now when I do this, you see the group is having the right access because I have made it 0. I have not removed the right access. Now let's create the file and give the permissions relevant to it. Okay, so let me create a file called as demo file perm.txt. Okay, the default permission is what we have, rw rx. So now I want to give the execute permission to a file. How can I give? There are two ways. One, you can give using an octal, okay, which would be in this case 6 and it would be 1, right? Because I also want a read access, so I will write 4 plus 1, which is 5. So it would be 6, 6, 5, right? But now I do not want the user permission to be changed or the group permission to be changed, or I just want the permission of the owner to be changed, but I don't remember the octal value, right? So how can you do that? O plus X, and when you give this demo underscore file perm txt, now you have given the other execute permission. Let's see whether the command what we have executed is really what we wanted. And you see now we have other having read and execute permission. Now if we want to revoke the read access, okay, from that you can do chmod o minus r, and then you give this file name. And now let's see. So now you see the other is having just an execute. It can't read the file. So to see that, so that's what it does. Now let's try to add the user, right? So how can we do that? Sudo user add, let me write r. And now let's go and see whether Raj is added. And I see the Raj is added and it is having the UID 1001. Now I want Raj also to be added into the group, which is 977. So how will I do that? Let's. So guys, we already created the user Raj and now we want to log in with user Raj. So before even doing that, let's again verify whether the user Raj is created. We see that, and also we see there is the group Raj itself created, which is having the group ID 1001. Now I want to add Raj into the cloud shell dash user group. How can I do that? Using sudo user mode minus g cloud shell dash user and Raj. Sorry for the typo error. It's cloud shell. And now let's see whether Raj is added to the group cloud shell user. How can we verify that? apc group, and you see the Raj is now added to a group called as cloud shell dash user. Now if you want to switch between to two users, Raj and the Cloud Shell dash user, all you need to do is su minus and then Raj, and it asks for the password. If you do not remember the password, now we need to change the password. All you need to do is sudo password and Raj, and then it's asking you to enter the new password for the Raj. So let's keep Raj123 as of now, Raj123, and now I can log in using my latest password for the Raj. And how can I do that? Su dash Raj, asking a password which I've typed Raj123, and here we are. Right? So let's type ID and we see the Raj is now belonging to the two groups. One is 1001, which is Raj itself. Another is Cloud Shell dash user, because we added that. How can we verify again if you want to check? etc groups, and that's what it is. Now let's come out or get back to our user Cloud Shell dash user, and to do that just type exit, and you are now in this. Right now let's change the owner of our file.txt, and for that we have a command chmod, which is change ownership. All you need to do is chmod, type the user which you want to change and the file name. In our case, it's going to be raj file.txt. And you see now the permission for changing that file is not permitted. Why? Let's see that. As we have import 755 and file.txt, and now we have the other users have the permission to execute or kind of thing. So let's now again execute the command, and again we are getting the same error. Let me check whether the Raj is added to the group or not. We see the Raj is added to the group. Group ID is this. So friends, we are getting this error even though we have added Raj to the Cloud Shell group, right? You know what can be a possible reason? So the reason for not allowing us to change is we are not still the root owner. For that, we need to use sudo command. So what I will do is sudo chon raj, and then I give file name. The moment I give sudo, it allows me to change the owner of the file. Right? Similarly, now I want to change the group also. So I'll write raj.raj, not, I will write Cloud Shell dash user and Raj. The moment I type this, now let me clear the screen, and you see both our user now is the Cloud Shell user, because I've typed the user has Cloud Shell in our command, right? And the group owner is now Raj. Now, if I want to change both, which is Raj, all I need to do type this, and now the owner of the file is also Raj, and the group to which the file belongs is also the Raj. And that's how you can change the owner of the file or a group of the file. Coming to our last session, which is a sticky. Right now, I do not want the user to change anything on my directory, because right so right now the demo underscore txt is owned by the cloud shell dash user, and I do not want anyone in that anyone to delete that directory, even though if Raj logs in and wants to delete that, I do not want that to happen. So for that, what I will do is I'll use chmod o plus t, which is the sticky symbolic value, or you can use o plus 1, which is an octal or the numerical value. And I'll do this. The moment I type this, now you will see the T appended to it. That is, now this directory is the sticky bit directory. No one can delete that directory, right? That's how you can control it. Now, if I want to remove chmod o minus t demo dot ext, and now the sticky bit is removed from that directory. I hope this session was helpful and you got an understanding of how to give access to a particular file, or how to control the access for your file or your script, and how can you change the owner user of the file. If you have liked this video, kindly press the like button and do subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if any of your friends are looking to learn the Linux or shell scripting, please share the content with them as well. Until then, take care. Bye bye.